Welcome to Thriving Thursday. As you guys probably learned last week from the Facebook Live around the planning documents for a book, a product, or a service, you need to create a customer persona. And this is really important to do right away because we're going to develop the assessment marketing around this. So what does this do? With every product you have, and a book is a product, or every service, you need to identify who your ideal client is. But it's even deeper than that. Before you go into assessment marketing to validate that customer persona, you need to actually have one built so you know you're connecting with the right people. So in the steps of this, we have the planning, which we did last week, and then we jump into that customer persona, and from there into the assessment marketing to validate that persona. That assessment marketing is also going to give us a lot of information about what exactly is it that your consumer needs. Now, why is this also important? Because customers, consumers, buyers, whatever you want to call them, are getting more and more savvy every day. And part of what you're doing here with the product is that in order to sell it, you have to A, know exactly who your product, your people are, B, know what level they're at so you can speak to them in a way that resonates with them. And 3, you have to be able to create a consumer journey, a customer journey. And that means a campaign from start to finish so that you understand not only how and where to connect, but how to speak to these people when you've connected, and how to sell to them the right product when it comes time to sell. So let's jump into this. So why must you choose all this? Well, first of all, it's a fundamental marketing step. And it's the fastest way to fill your products and services and business with your ideal clients. Another reason for this is it's super easy to understand who you are and what you do. And when we're putting this all together and including the consumer journey, we're also going to be doing some story branding about this, because our stories are no longer all about us. It's all about connecting and having the right story brand to connect with your ideal audience. You're going out there to share your passions and gifts with the world. So what that means is that you actually have to connect with a piece of the world to make that happen. Going out and saying that I'm going to connect with everybody because everybody needs this program, super unrealistic. And every day that you miss out doing this, you're losing money. Your business has unrealized profits because you're not connecting with the right people. So I hope all of that made sense. I know it sounds a little complicated, but it's where we have to begin, not only with product validation, but with audience validation as well. So what are the benefits of a defined avatar? We can call this avatar, persona, whatever it is that you're going to be putting through this consumer journey. So first of all, not having it defined is a disaster because marketing to everyone is super expensive. You literally cannot do it. But if you can reach a niche audience of people who know you, like you, and trust you, you've got this rocked. Specialization sells products and services. I love this, this thing that one of my favorite gurus says about if your audience is confused, they won't buy. So you can't confuse them. They have to know exactly who you are and what you do, and that you are an expert in this. And becoming an expert or being recognized as an expert or an influencer doesn't come from you telling people all day long that you are one. It is in the message. It's in the copy. It's in the content you produce. One of the things I hate out in the world is real estate agents who will tell you things like, I've been in business for 50 years, ergo, I'm an expert. Well, there's a difference between somebody being out there selling 40 houses a year for the last 50 years and a person who did it part-time and maybe sold a house or two a year. So none of that really says anything. It implies a lot, but it doesn't say anything. Your message has to be convincing. That means instead of it needs to resonate. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. It needs to resonate. Once you put yourself in a position of having to convince people you need them, you've lost them. So having your consumer journey and your benefits or avatar together and your persona built and the assessments and the validations done takes the convincing out, because you're talking to the right people. And when that message is clear and it's disseminated to a focused audience, there's no reason to be salesy. And you know what? We all hate sales. Sales is convincing. Sales feels icky. But the right message to the right people with all of the validations stops this in its tracks. So let's talk a little bit about building that ideal reader avatar or product avatar. So the avatar process starts with demographics. Is your target audience male or female? Why is that so very important? Well, it's important because when you speak to males, they hear differently than females. Same with females. So whenever you're in a position where you're trying to blend the two, it can get a little bit tricky. What's their profession? What's their educational background? If you're talking to people with a high school level education, you're probably going to talk to them a little bit differently than maybe college educated people. If you're talking to someone who has a PhD, you're going to talk to them way different levels. What do they do in their spare time? What are their hopes, dreams, and fears? You have to talk to people in order to actually know this. That's one of the things that's so crucial here is we jump into this and we assume. We don't actually collect data that tells us, are these the right people or not? And that's why building this and testing it is so important before we build a product and service. I've had so many people bring me books that have not been the books that their audience wants. And they're flummoxed by why it's not selling. Why didn't it get to #1? Why is nobody buying it 5 years later? And most of the time it's because they never actually marketed, built a platform, and built data and validated not only their audience, but their product before they ever developed it. And that is a super waste of genius. This is one that I'm just put together. It's a very basic one. This is Kathy. Kathy was one of my clients who was building a persona, and this is the very basic. It doesn't go into the psychographics. It doesn't go into a lot of the other things we'll probably be talking about a little bit later, but these were the basics. Her ideal audience was 35 to 60. It was women, primarily women. She connected very, very well with women. Men, not so much. That made it easy because her copy was women-focused, women-languaged. The marital status didn't really matter. By the time people engaged in her programs, their children were grown. These people wanted to travel. They were looking for new careers. Their income range with their current jobs were 100 to 250K. So they were people who could invest in her. That's super important. And their spare time, they were outgoing, they were adventurous, they were ready for the next chapter of their life. One of the commonalities, I skipped commonalities, was they were well educated. Most of them were college graduates. Most of them were professionals. They were people who had been locked into a job for 20, 30 years, and they just knew that now that their kids were grown, they could move on to the next chapter of their life because they didn't have to worry about children's college educations. They didn't have to worry about, getting their kids through high school and paying for sports and all those things that parents worry about when their kids are growing up. So this was a tremendous start to Kathy's persona. And Kathy actually took that a step further and had a graphic built that she put on her wall around this. So I just want you guys to understand how truly important this is. Connecting with your audience is not something you do after you write the book. It's not something you assume. You start early, you ask questions, you do assessments, you look for patterns, and you really approach all of this in a very wise manner. This becomes extremely crucial when you have an investor involved. So if you have a business that has an actual product, this is 100% crucial because your investor is going to want to see that audience validation. If you're a coach, an author, or a to-be author, or a speaker, this is really important because you don't know how many times a day I hear people telling me, oh, I spoke in front of this audience and nobody, it wasn't the right audience. They didn't buy. That's where that assessment becomes so very crucial, is having that when you're in front of an audience. And by the way, for those of you who ask about making money with books, this is really crucial for you too, because you can actually pre-sell your book in front of a stage, have a form ready, but you need to know that you've got the right people and have the ability to take credit cards. So all super, super important. And remember, if you're not fully building your funnel, your products and your clients and everything, they're going to leak revenue. You're not capturing everything you need to be doing in this arena. See you next Thursday. Thanks so much for stopping by.